Unions representing security guards are planning mass action, including a march to the union buildings. This follows a dispute with employers over what they call irregular deductions of millions from the salaries of workers. Khumbulani Amalgamated Workers Union's Khumbulani Moyo joins us for more. Khumbulani, good evening and thank you so much for coming through.
Good evening, Gwena, and compliments for the new season, and also good evening to your viewers and also to the security officers across the country.
Compliments to you too. I mean, let's take a few steps back before we talk about the mass action, or at least the planned mass action. What are the issues here, Khumbulani, that are at play?
The issues emanate from the main collective agreement which we've got in the security sector. You remember that we've got a bargaining council that started to operate around 2020, where in our main collective agreement we've got a benefit, a social benefit for all security officers, which is called medical insurance. So it started to be implemented in 2021 March, where employees are contributing 150 and employers were contributing 100 rand. Then it moved on to 2022, 1st of March, where employers are contributing 100 rand, 150 rand, and employees are contributing 100 rand. So this medical insurance is more of a cover to all security officers in case they are ill at work, and then there are issues that affect them in health-wise, and also it covers the 27 chronic illness benefits that assist most of the security officers in case they've got issues of illness at work.
So as things stand, what you're saying is that there has been deductions that have been taken from security officers, yet they're not receiving the necessary care that they should be getting from these payments, monthly payments that you're making as security guards.
Yes, the bargaining council embarked on a process of appointing a service provider. The service provider is called Affinity Health service provider. So what happened is that in 2021, some companies which we are alleging, which currently we've got a database of next to about 30,000 employees, they went in and copycatted the same medical benefits that are being afforded by the insurance company that was appointed by the bargaining council, and started deducting those monies, which is 150, which was on the previous year, like I've alluded, and then also not forwarding that money to the appointed service provider. And they had to create their own service provider, whereby now we're getting from all different unions, we're getting a lot of complaints that, but the employers are deducting this 150 from our salaries, but when we phone Affinity, the insurance service provider, they say we're not in the database. And then when we go and consult the appointed medical doctors or medical hospitals that we need to be appointed as part of the service level agreement, we were told that we cannot be assisted. But the employers, they are deducting these monies, which has led to some of these employees not getting the services that they need to get, and some of them going back to the government hospitals, and you would know that the queues there and also the challenges that are there in the clinics and the government hospitals, and which leads some of them not being able to go to work at a quicker return time.
But Khumbulani, if employers are taking this monies deducted from salaries every month, what explanation are they giving as to where the money is going? They
misinform and mislead. If you check some of their documents, they will say it's a medical insurance. But when we check together with the other unions on these 30,000 workers which we have alleged on, we find that they are not in the database. And these monies, they are just going into their friends or their colleagues whom they have tried to create a scheme that is in line, but it's just, we can call a scam, because it's not in line with what the bargaining council has as mandated or signed on in terms of affinity requirements. And also there should be also, in terms of the Bargaining Council, there's only one service provider that was appointed, that is Affinity Health, as far as we know, as the unions and employers.
And from what you're saying, that when Affinity was approached, they themselves seem to not have an idea what is going on.
Yeah, they seem also to throw the back and say, no, these are not part of us. And when we further investigate, we found out that some of these companies, the service provider is not Affinity. It's different type of service provider. One of them is Gaelo. One of them is Universal Health. All of those, they were not appointed by the Bargaining Council. And most of these companies that are doing that, most of them, they've got big tender contracts with government, which in the 2020, we highlighted the issue of non-compliance of these companies and say to the Treasury, we marched to the Treasury and said, Treasury, we're highlighting some of these scrupulous companies that you are giving them tenders and they are not in compliance. They continue that trend. Which brings a lot of unhappiness and uncomfortable on all the complying companies. Because at the end of the day, what happens is that they deduct the money, they put it in their own pockets, and they don't even benefit the employees, and they use the money in terms of their own issues, which they feel they are necessary.
So what I'm trying to understand, Khumbulani, is that if Affinity does not have the answers, the employers themselves are ducking and diving. Where do you think you're going to get the answers?
No, we will get the answers. Already what we've done, we've written to the Council of Medical Schemes. There are requirements there in order for you to run a certain scheme. And also there are requirements which they've used the logo for Affinity and some of the benefits, which they are not registered with the Council of the Medical Schemes. That we have confirmed, and also we have double-checked in terms of Affinity database is correct. Affinity, they are not there. And then we have checked some of these employers, and they are alleging that they are not willing, they are not even going to comply, and they are not even willing to refund those monies to those employees. While these employees are not even benefiting from the monies that are being deducted by these employers.
How many employees are being affected by this? Do you have an idea as to how many people are actually affected by this scheme, if I can call it?
No, as of end of November last year, that was 2022, there were roughly about 30,000 of them. And most of these are on some of these big companies that you see, the private security companies that you see in some of the buildings and in some of the government departments.
So you are saying that you will be planning a mass action if you're not getting the answers. I mean, what is your expectation in terms of the plan going forward, mass action and so on?
Our plan is that on the 31st of January, we will be having a convening all unions, and then we'll be announcing our plan in terms of what we expect. What we expect is that all people who are getting services from these companies that will be highlighted, will shame them. And then the second issue is that we need to highlight to the government or to the union buildings that some of these directors need to be directly liable. And then the third issue that we're expecting is that most these companies that have done those deductions, they need to refund those monies to the employees. Then the fourth one is that they need, with immediate effect, after the 31st of January, we'll announce then what is the deadline that we need them to register with the appointed service provider. Because we can't have people who use the Bargaining Council as part of their own gains or on their own personal gains, because the medical insurance was appointed by the Bargaining Council, and all employers in the private security sector need to comply until such time that a new service provider will be appointed. For now, what we know as unions and organized labor is that there's only one appointed service provider, and all these companies and all these employers, they need to belong there, so that we are able to hold accountable Affinity, who is currently the service provider, to say This is the several level agreement that you signed, and then these are the expectations from our members. But we can't be found as unions answering to questions where companies are taking these monies to their own pocket and our members are suffering in terms of the services that they are not getting. And some, they have not even registered. There are some which we are saying there are 30,000, which are using different companies. But there are more than 100,000, which we're still not going to verify, which are not even registered with the medical insurance, or there are no deductions taking place in those employees, which lead to these employees suffering in terms of them receiving a proper health care.
Have you not received any, I guess, answers from the Council for Medical Schemes and maybe the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, or are they also part of this investigation that is ongoing?
The Council for Medical Scheme, through our lawyers, which the three unions sent our demands to them, and also to request investigation trust Sakau, KAU, and Abangobi Workers Union. We have not received any response from them, but we have received an acknowledgement that they are investigating the matter. We hope, since we are coming back to the new year, we'll get a response. But on the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, we have not received any response as far as we know. On the criminal cases, we're busy compiling affidavits towards those employers which were violated. Some of them, they've threatened us to say we need to withdraw in terms of our demands, and we have told them that they need to just comply, some of these big companies, and we will intensify. If they don't want to comply, we're going to intensify. We're going to even write to their own clients and inform them to say, this company is a bogus company, it's not complying with, in terms of the Bargaining Council requirements.
So I want also to understand that in terms of just the scheme itself, how is this process affecting individual workers? The fact that money is being paid, but they're not getting any services, from the medical aid or the medical scheme that they were promised that they will get. How are the workers themselves affected?
Firstly, it affects them in monetary value. Remember, when you get your pay and you find that your salary is short with either 150 or 100 rand, which means it affects your salary in general. And then second, it affects the members that are attempted to have been deducted for a certain benefit, and they don't get that benefit. For example, I know the security officers, they work normally a 12-hour shift. He knocks off in the morning. He's got probably a headache or some flu, and he needs to attend to a medical practitioner or a general medical practitioner. When he gets there, he's told that you are not registered and you cannot be assisted. Then he has waited there maybe for about 2 or 3 hours to be consulted by a doctor. Then he moves on to most probably a clinic. He finds there that there's a longer queue. Then he's not getting assistance at the clinic. Maybe he gets assistance maybe after 10 or 12 hours. Then he needs also to report back to work during that time, because if you don't report back to work, normally you'll get a letter of absenteeism or absconsion, that you were not at work and you're not going to be paid. So it affects them highly. And also, when we campaigned, or when we came up with the medical insurance as unions over the years, which took us more than 20 years to get to where we are today in terms of having this benefit, it was on the understanding that security officers will be able to get better health care. Also assisting on the mission of government to make sure that the ordinary people will know that an ordinary medical aid to an ordinary person is very expensive. But this one, because it's a group one with over 500, which we projected to be over 500,000 employees, then it will be easier for every security officer to get this health care benefit. So when the deduction is done and you don't get a benefit, then it affects you mentally, it affects you in your work environment, it affects you, and then the monetary value also, it affects you.
As part of your mass action, as you've mentioned, are you expecting possibly money back to be reimbursed, the money that's been taken, or at least clarity to know if Affinity is involved in this, and if your members, your workers, will be able to get assistance should they go to a medical practitioner?
In these 30,000 workers, we're quite sure as the unions that they are not at Affinity. So what we are expecting is that from day one, when they deducted these monies, these companies, they need firstly to refund, because remember it works on month-to-month basis, on an insurance basis. So in essence, even if it's paid as a lump sum to Affinity, it's not going to benefit these employees. So we want those monies firstly to be refunded, that those were deducted to those employees. Then secondly, we want those employers to register them with Affinity so that they can start benefiting from those employees. So it's quite a millions. When we calculate, when you say 30,000 multiplied by 200 and by 150 of 2021, and then 30,000 multiplied also by 100 rand for 2022 cycle, you would find that it's over 60 million. That is owed to these employees individually. As a group of the companies that have deducted this money. So it's quite a lot of money to security officers. On a yearly basis, you would look at an essence of an extra about 2,500 that was taken to every employee by these employers and not forwarded to Affinity, which is the service provider. That we know that is not at Affinity. We've double-checked by end of last year.
And just finally then, are you still looking at joining this scheme? Because arguably one would say this is something that the employees rather need. I mean, because if you're talking of benefits of chronic disease management, medication, consultations, hospitals, casualty needs, and so on and so forth, this is a need for almost everyone. Are you still willing to continue with this if there is clarity as to where the money is going?
Yeah, in the scheme currently, there are about next to about 270,000 who are currently good standing members at Affinity. They are enjoying those benefits. Workers are happy on that. These 30,000, they are not enjoying them because employers are deducting and not forwarding. So we expect these 30,000 also to enjoy the benefits of even over-the-counter medicine that they get, and even the telemedicine. You can simple phone from home. If you're not feeling well, you don't have money for transport, and you can be assisted, which is a good thing for some of the rural area security officers who are far from the bigger cities. So we expect these 30,000 employees to be registered. This is the cause that we're calling for these employers, firstly to refund the monies that were deducted, then secondly, these employers to register the rest of the 30,000 that we picked up. We know that there are more that are not yet registered, but we expect that as we move and intensify this non-compliance of the medical insurance and some other non-compliance which we'll highlight in our program after the 31st of March, because we've picked up that most of these security companies, they don't want to comply in terms of the main collective agreement that both the organized employers and organized unions have signed.
And then just finally, Khumbulani, what are your timelines in terms of, before the mass action and expectations with the discussions? What targets have you set yourselves in terms of time?
We have set ourselves a target. You would know that currently the Minister of Labour, Mr. Tulas Ngese, has signed the new collective agreement, which is now extended even to non-parties, which is starting from the 1st of March 2023. So we want that by the 1st of March 2023, all these companies that are non-compliant with the main collective agreement, including the medical insurance, even the salaries that we negotiated on to comply. That's why we want to intensify this non-compliance, picking up one of the issues, which is the medical insurance. We would know also that there are billions owed also on the Provident Fund, where the employers are deducting and not forwarding those monies. We've got a list of them. Then also we've got these scrupulous companies that now are recruiting the interns and doing the learnerships and underpaying those employees. So our target timeline is that by the 1st of March 2023, all these companies need to be in compliance. Failure to that, There are amendments that we've done in terms of enforcement, that we are going to be holding liable the directors of those companies, and we are going to be shaming also the clients who are using those companies to say you are using a non-compliance company and you are exploiting the vulnerable workers.
Khumbulani, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming through.